I want to talk about investing mindsets and how people can preserve their wealth or compound it over time to become wealthy with not a lot of money, frankly speaking. And I think that when people get involved in crypto, it's usually either you're like an OG kind of like technically inclined person. I got into crypto back in 2016 because I used to create software, and at the time we would basically take Bitcoin as a payment. And so that was kind of like an accident. But obviously it forced me to learn about like what actually like Bitcoin is, how the blockchain kind of works, why it's important. You start learning about banks and all this kind of stuff and whatever, but I'm not really here to talk about that. I'm just trying to say that I think a lot of the new people in the space that kind of don't understand Bitcoin, they don't really understand tech, but they hear that people make millions of dollars and they became financially free. I think that I think that that's how most people get introduced to the blockchain and cryptocurrency, specifically like Bitcoin or like altcoins, right? And I think that if you're somebody that does that and that's why you're in the space, I think that that's why this cycle has hurt so much, because usually what happens is when you come into an environment or a space where you don't really know the intrinsics of it, or you don't have patience perhaps, because obviously with the stock market, people hear about the stock market, right? Or just invest in like indices or things that pay you like 4 or 5% yield. That's not really attractive, right? When you compare it to something like Bitcoin that usually goes up about 40 to 50% every single year on average, right? Obviously not every year is the same, but it's a very attractive proposal when it comes to your investing. And so people understandably get very, they get very impatient, or they get very frustrated with their investments, and it causes them to be very irrational. And so I want to kind of like give you guys a lesson of kind of how what I learned, because I've gone through so much downturns and I've lost a lot of money over the years, right? It's just trial and error. And basically the reason why I lost a lot of money is because I went to, basically I started off, using like technology, coding, all that kind of stuff. And so I was basically getting Bitcoin as a payment, and then I was just keeping that kind of like as an investment. I wasn't really doing much with it. Same with stocks. So like, obviously I kind of got involved with stocks pretty early on, but nothing like too crazy. And what kind of happened around like 2000, I would say 17, 18, because there was a massive drawdown. I saw my portfolio, or like Bitcoin specifically, went down like 60 or 70%, something crazy. And basically what I kind of learned is, you see this kind of like influx of money, or you see your portfolio double or triple, and it makes you very complacent, and you just think that that's going to be like it, right? That's like your huge break. You're going to make all this money. You don't really have to, you don't really feel like you need to work, because you feel like your money is just working for you at a very aggressive pace. But it's very easy to lose track of how easy it is to also lose it. And you don't really develop any other skills outside of that. And so something that I've really learned over the years that I think could provide a lot of value to you guys is you always want to focus on generating multiple sources of income. And so when you do this, it's like, it's not very fulfilling just to buy something and hold it and watch it go up. It's like assuming that you guys do make the money, it's kind of like easy money. And you don't really value things that come easy. You value things that you work for. And so it's always important in life to do things that makes you very passionate. And so for me, I have a fitness background. I've been in fitness for about 20 years as well. And so while I had a tech-based background, I really loved going to the gym. That was kind of like my little outlet to kind of like de-stress and just like disconnect from like, whatever it is, right? And so I turned that into an online business where I was basically, connecting with people, training people. I was obviously very picky with my network of who I would train, because I wanted to network with people that were successful as well, that also wanted to get into shape. Because a trend that I really realize is, a lot of people spend all of their life chasing wealth while sacrificing their health. And then there's also people that I notice in fitness that, all they care about is working out, and they're not really, financially successful. And so my whole thing is I want to have a very well-rounded life. I want to have, obviously I want to be in incredible shape. I want to be really healthy. I want to have good, family connections and just human connections in general. And obviously I want to have, my finances in order. And so when you position yourself to do things that make you very fulfilled, like for me, I was basically, personal training, having like an online business. I was doing just different things on the side that had to do with fitness. Generating an income, right? And so I was using this income basically to just passively invest in Bitcoin, and then obviously Ethereum came out, and obviously the markets kind of took off pretty crazily around, I would say around like 2018-ish all the way up to 2020. I kind of did shift a little bit, but the purpose is, or I guess the point of this is, you don't want to just be fully in the market just because you've made some money or because you're just so like caught up in it right now, because there's just a lot of chop going on. And I think that a lot of you guys are really stressed out. Even I catch myself in very stressful times when it comes to just like, always staring at the portfolio thinking like, did I make a wrong move or whatever the case may be? And that should never be the position that you put yourself in. You should always try to find fulfillment, in your life that just gives you just passion and happiness, and find a way to just invest the rest, right? So like, if you're somebody that's just starting out, then obviously you want to live below your means. Find, multiple sources of income if you can. Learn how to monetize whatever you're doing in a freeing way. Like don't, obviously you don't want to slave away and just work, tirelessly, but there's no shortage of ways that you can make money nowadays. And so you always want to just do this so you can invest passively and not have to rely so much on your investments or a trading strategy. And over time, if you can just like not care about that and leave the money in there and you get better at whatever you're passionate about, everything just kind of comes together and it compounds over time. And then obviously you want to connect that with a, some sort of investment strategy. Like maybe if it's like, Bitcoin comes up and it's gone up, like obviously it's gone from $15,000 all the way up to $26,000. Maybe it makes sense taking some off the table, but you're just a lot less stressed out because you're making money in different, avenues. And so you don't really care if the price is going down so much because that's not your only source of income. And you're also able to, if you're not 24/7 trading the charts, well, then you obviously have more time to get in shape, talk to, spend time with your family, your loved ones, your boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever the case may be. And so that's just kind of like my reminder and kind of like my mentality going into investing and how I want to structure my life. I know it's just, frankly speaking, I just noticed that people are always like too far in on like one thing or the other, and they always sacrifice things. And I truly think that people can have it all if they put their mind to it and they structure their life according to their goals and what they align with. So just wanted to hop in here and just kind of share that with you guys. And yeah, anyway, I'm off to a night. I'm about to watch a show right now and probably just have like a snack or something like that. So anyway, see y'all soon. Bye.